There's something that happens when a black woman achieves success and especially power. Some people feel the need to humiliate her. We've seen it in our own lives with our mothers' wives, sisters, friends, leaders who have achieved success. They have to overcome this on the way. Trump clowns say that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, even though she was the Attorney General of California, the largest population state in the U.S., elected to the United States Senate, served on Senate committees, elected Vice President of the United States, and cast tie-breaking votes as President of the Senate. They say she's inexperienced, she's not black, she's slept her way to the top. You name it. It's ugly, but it's expected.
VP Harris. Is anybody... it's not VP Harris, it's now the nominee to be the President of the United States of America. Is anybody really surprised at the level of vitriol and nastiness which is now being aimed in the direction of VP Harris? You can see what Biden did. He let the Republicans have their RNC conference, spend all their money, all their budgets, pour all their hates, their jokes, everything they could to smear President Biden, and then that was over. They've allocated their money, and then he announced he's stepping down, and Ms. Harris is taking over. President Harris has a good change, and I think former guy is stuck in the ages as well, because it's quite clear there are only two avenues that right now various people within the Republican Party and on cable news are attacking Kamala Harris. I keep on getting told off for pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, pronouncing her name wrong. Okay, whatever. The fact she's female and the fact she has a light brown skin. I know it seems really obvious that we're in 2024, but I'm not a member of the Republican Party or on Fox News.
Well, I think she's one of the weakest candidates I've ever seen in the history of our country. I mean, intellectually, just really kind of the bottom of the barrel. And from the standpoint of just who she is and the policies, the positions that she's taken, her failure to do anything in terms of the border, that sort of thing, I think it's just a failure from top to bottom. I think she was a DEI hire, and I think that that's what we're seeing. And I just don't think that they have anybody else. I just think that they're in real disarray.
She didn't earn this. She inherited it. And Americans aren't hot on heirs. They like self-made men and women. They're brainwashing us.
Yes.
Now that Kamala Harris is essentially the presumptive nominee on the Democratic side, her record as border czar is going to come into glare, into focus a lot. Famously, she had this quip after asked about, is she going to go to the southern border? She said this, watch this, and then your reaction.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
This whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
Which is kind of a crazy answer.
Well, first of all, border czar, the title, is the title the Republicans gave her. The White House, the president did
What do
not
you
give
call
her
her
that.
then?
She assumed the role that Vice President Biden had during the Obama administration, which is diplomacy with Central America. That is a role he had. He gave it to her. She is not the border czar. To the extent there's anybody who's a border czar, it's the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Okay, so she was tasked with trying to figure out the root causes for why everybody was coming up here. Under Joe Biden...
Which needs to be discussed a lot more, by the way.
Absolutely.
It's a hemispheric shift north.
They need to figure it out so that it can be controlled. During the Biden administration, Biden-Harris, 1.5 million more entered the country illegally than did during Trump and Obama combined. That's a big number.
You have to look at the larger picture. Crossings during the Obama years were actually at a rate lot lower than the Trump years. FY19, President Trump's third year of office, we had almost 1 million, which is about twice as large as anything I ever saw. There's a large hemispheric shift northward because of drought, famine, corruption, poverty, violence. There are aspects of our immigration system that serve as magnets for that, but
it's easy to come in.
The hard lesson I learned, Steve, from managing this problem is the push factors always overwhelm whatever defense you can put on the southern border.
Well, some of them already are, because we have seen Republicans bring race into the conversation when it comes to VP Harris. I want to share just one example.
First off, he said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and that he just skipped over. What about white females? What about any other group? When you go down that route, you take mediocrity, and that's what they have right now as a vice president.
So are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire.
100% a DEI hire. That right there is Tennessee Congressman Tim Burchett calling Vice President Harris a mediocre DEI hire. So I want to get this straight. Whatever policies she puts forth, whatever her platform is going forward, let's talk about what she has done. Kamala Harris was the district attorney of San Francisco, the attorney general for the state of California, a U.S. senator, and she is currently the vice president of the United States of America. The man who called her a mediocre DEI hire, Tim Burchett, well, who's he? He's a longtime state lawmaker, and then he became a congressman. In Congress, he challenged the results of the 2020 election. After a school shooting in his state last year, he said there is no role for Congress to do anything about mass shootings. And he openly said he believes that not only does the U.S. have a UFO, it is currently trying to reverse engineer it. That right there is the man who is calling the vice president a mediocre DEI hire. Steve, how does the campaign handle these kind of ridiculous, baseless, targeted attacks?
Yeah, look, it's inevitable. Barack Obama went through it. Michael Dukakis went through it in 1988. Remember the Willie Horton ad? When Republicans can't talk about issues like a woman's right to choose, they're going to resort to dog whistles and coded words and racially tinged rhetoric. You just have to power through it. They know it's coming. But here's the risk that I think Republicans take when they do this. As I said earlier, they have maxed out their base. You can't, the MAGA base is at nuclear energy levels. They can't get any hotter. When you engage in that kind of rhetoric, you tend to antagonize the moderate, suburban voters, the swing voters who reject that kind of rhetoric in the suburbs of Milwaukee, the suburbs of Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, the Maricopa County, Arizona. Those moderate swing suburbs tend to reject that kind of language. And so the Republicans may use that in order to keep their base intact. They're never going to lose any element of their base. But if they continue this route, people will see through it, and they risk pushing those moderate Republicans and moderate Democratic voters and independent voters to the Democrats, who will be litigating not based on those code words, but based on reproductive freedoms.
And House Republican leaders are well aware of this risk.
At what has become Harris's largest campaign event to date are reflecting on the change.
Seeing Biden step down from the top of the ticket, I felt so hopeless. And I woke up the next morning and was like, this is something I can do to put real action to power. And I gave my first campaign donation to Vice President Harris's campaign.
Nearly 40% of Democrats surveyed in a new CBS News poll say they're now more motivated to vote in November.
Why is that important? Because Democrats have lagged Republicans so far in saying that they're going to turn out, and turnout could be the determining factor in November.
83% of Democrats surveyed say Biden made the right choice in stepping aside as the nominee. Skyler Henry.
But Donald Trump wants to take our country backward. He and his extreme Project 2025 agenda will weaken the middle class. Like, we know we got to take this seriously. And can you believe they put that thing in writing? Read it. It's 900 pages. But here's the thing. When you read it, you will see Donald Trump intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and make working families foot the bill. They intend to end the Affordable Care Act and take us back then to a time when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. Remember what that was like? children with asthma, women who survived breast cancer, grandparents with diabetes. America has tried these failed economic policies before, but we are not going back. We are not going back. Not going back. We're not going back. We are not going back. And I'll tell you why we're not going back. Because ours is a fight for the future. And it is a fight for freedom. But Donald Trump wants to take our country backward. He and his extreme Project 2025 agenda will weaken the middle class. Like, we know we got to take this seriously. And can you believe they put that thing in writing? Read it. It's 900 pages. But here's the thing. When you read it, you will see Donald Trump intends to cut Social Security and Medicare. He intends to give tax breaks to billionaires and big corporations and make working families foot the bill. They intend to end the Affordable Care Act and take us back then to a time when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. Remember what that was like? Children with asthma, women who survived breast cancer, grandparents with diabetes. America has tried these failed economic policies before, but we are not going back. We are not going back. Not going back. We're not going back. We are not going back. And I'll tell you why we're not going back. Because ours is a fight for the future. And it is a fight for freedom. And we who believe in reproductive freedom will stop Donald Trump's extreme abortion bans because we trust women to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do. And when Congress passes a law to restore reproductive freedoms as President of the United States, I will sign it into law. So, Wisconsin, ultimately in this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? A country and to your point, do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law? Or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? And here's the beauty of this moment. We each have the power to answer that question. The power is with the people. We each have the power to answer that question. And in the next 105 days, then we have work to do. We have doors to knock on, we have phone calls to make, we have voters to register, and we have an election to win. So, Wisconsin, today I ask ask you, are you ready to get to work? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. God bless you.
He's out. Do you think you might endorse Vice President Kamala Harris should she get the nomination?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely would endorse Vice President Kamala Harris. I supported Kamala Harris in 2020 when she ran for president. I was out there on the campaign trail with her. She was the only reason that I voted for the Biden-Harris ticket to begin with. And, we have our, disagreements on air and off air. But I think that, she is the perfect person, to be to fight in these unprecedented times right now. So,
Angela,
yes.